This is the Gillette Labs with exfoliating bar. The bar and the handle removes unseen dirt and debris ahead of the blades for effortless shaving in one efficient stroke.
All right, morning. All right, so digging in on these Colts. I think for us, kind of start with last year. That was obviously a good football team. A lot of the parts are still in place. A lot of the players, changed the defense a little bit, but still, defense is pretty good. And they've added some, key players like Ngakoue and Gilmore and guys like that. So, just overall, they took the ball away from us last year. They ran the ball and they made plays in the kicking game. So, it's a well-balanced team. I think they've put together a solid roster that has good players in pretty much every position. And offensively, I mean, it obviously starts with Taylor and Pittman, the offensive line, Coach Wright, play calling, scheme. They do a good job, attacking. And, quarterback, they've added some, quarterback running type plays in there, which obviously, we haven't been great against this year, so we'll see how that goes. But, again, a well-balanced offense. Pierce, young receiver. And defensively, as I said, Ngakoue, Gilmore additions to, already outstanding group, really, with, Moore, Leonard. Franklin's had a lot of production. Could see him in the kicking game as well. Stewart's playing really well. And, obviously, Buckner is a major force. So, really good defensive group. Coach Bradley has installed his scheme, which has always been tough to deal with, and some similarities to what they did last year. Obviously, it's different coordinator, a little different, but it's a 4-down scheme with a lot of similar principles defensively. And then the kicking game, really strong group. This is probably one of the best special teams units we'll see all year. Very physical, fast. They got some fast guys like Brown, Flowers, and they got some really, physical guys like Stewart. And, the rest of their linebacker crew there, speed, obviously, guys like that, they're really a problem. So, again, another well-balanced group between their DBs, linebackers, and, Hack, we've seen him from last year, and so just, sure we'll see, without Hines. We'll see how the return game goes with, or it's Kuti, Rogers, however they decide to do it. Again, both pretty explosive players. Had some big plays for them. So, well-balanced group across the board, offense, defense, special teams, well-coached. Really good, Reich and Bradley and Bubba. They all have a lot of respect for them. They all do a good job. And, need to be ready to go here.
Bill, after not making any moves yesterday, does that mean you're happy with the roster that you currently have at midpoint of the season, just before midpoint of the season?
Yeah, well, we're always looking to improve. We had a couple of practice squad players this week, so it'd be hard for me to say there wouldn't be any roster changes between now and the end of the year. I think that'd be a stretch, but I mean, I don't know. Who knows? We'll see how it goes.
Max said after the game the other day that he put in a little extra this week. Did you see that in him, in his performance, that he put in a little extra last week?
Yeah, I think everybody put in a little extra after the Chicago game. I think we all did. We all needed to.
But nothing specific from him?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think everybody did. Short week, there's a lot of grinding. I think the team stepped up and responded pretty well to short week challenge against against a good Jet team. But we're done with the Jets, so it's time to move on. I don't want to worry about last week.
With Stephon Gilmore, did they move him around much, or is he?
Yeah, it's you don't know exactly. Sometimes they, let's say he moves around a bit because a lot of times he plays field and boundary. So, but they'll match.
Does he still look like a guy that, not just like, you want to take away a top receiver? He's a guy you put on them, take him away.
Yeah, I don't know what their game plan would be on that. I mean, it's obviously a good corner. You have to ask them what they're going to do. I don't know.
Does it look much different with him, Bill, at all? Just the Bradley scheme you mentioned versus what you guys have done here for.
Yeah, I mean that's that scheme's quite a bit different than what we do. So, but they're just a good defensive team. So.
Coach, you mentioned the design quarterback runs that they put in for Ellinger. What kind of things do you see out of that package for them, and how do they stress
I don't know. It was
those?
only one game, so I don't know if that was for Washington. If that's something they're going to do, you have to ask them.
Did you guys do much with Ellinger that year? Obviously, you drafted a quarterback that year too. Did you get a chance to? Get to
Yeah,
him?
I don't think we visited him. No.
What do you remember of Kenny Moore when he was here and as his success?
Yeah, good football player. A very instinctive guy, tough. Probably plays faster in his time speed. Gets to jump on a lot of things. Tried to hang on to him. We just didn't have him in the roster at that point. He's had a really good career.
Bill, you gave Bubba his first opportunity as a player and then brought him in here as a coach. What were the qualities that he demonstrated in both of those roles for you, and how does his special teams unit reflect them?
I think they reflect a lot on. It's basically like a mirror image of a tough, hard-nosed, highly competitive kid. Played as hard as anybody, all the time, every play, fearless. He has a lot of players like that playing for him. So aggressive. He spent a lot of time with Coach Seeley. He was here with Coach Seeley, then was at San Francisco with Brad, and maybe Cleveland too. I don't know. But anyway, spent a lot of time with Coach Seeley, so, and then, obviously came back and was here as well. So he's been influenced by a number of different coaches, I would say. But, in his playing experience, I don't know, 10 years, how long did he play? 9, 10 years, whatever it was. Something like that. In various organizations, he's got a lot of experience. He's seen a lot, and he's done a good job. I mean, that's, like I said, this is one of the best units we'll see, and they're very aggressive. They're very tough, and they have a good mixture of size and speed and physicality. So they've done a good job.
Bill, you mentioned last week that Elliott and Matt would handle most of the business around the trade deadline. What do they convey to you around that time or afterward about how close you came to
Yeah,
making
that's
a trade?
all. We're done. Trade deadline's over, so moving on. Colts.
Were you close on anything?
Nothing happened, so we're moving on. I don't even know what close means. What does that mean?
Far apart negotiations. Was it a matter of like a round with a draft pick or a player? Are they extended negotiations?
We've had conversations that have gone on for months and nothing happened. I've had conversations that have gone on for 6 to 10 minutes and the trade gets done. I don't know what that means.
Trent's dealt with some injuries over the course of his career, but he's played every snap so far this season. How helpful has it been to have him out there on a consistent basis?
It's good to have everybody out there, as many guys as possible have out there. Always helps. That's how they get better, and that's how you build continuity and consistency. Just being on the field, practice reps, building your fundamental, and again, team consistency in play. So, yeah, it's a lot different than the first half of last year. Sure.
Bill, you talked about consistency. With your kickers, you've basically had
Adam, Steven, and then now Nick. When you look at guys, what do you look for in a guy?
Well, there was a few other ones in between there now. I mean,
Right.
we've had,
But they've been consistent over time.
well, they were, but I mean, it's not like we just had 3 kickers here now.
Well, what did you see in Nick that made you stay with him and bring him here?
His performance. Yeah, Nick's really good. He's really probably, of all the kickers, probably the smartest, you know. They were all smart, but I mean, really just professional, totally understanding everything about kicking. You know, Adam and Steven probably a little more talented, but just in terms of fundamentals, the execution, the consistency. I mean, Nick's really good. I mean, Adam's really good too. You're talking about a Hall of Fame kicker. Honestly, all 3 of those guys could be. I mean, pretty good. Been very fortunate. You know, at Stover in Cleveland, which he looked pretty good too until Tucker came along. So, but yeah, that's a key position, and Nick's been, you know, incredibly consistent.
Talking about consistency, coach had a few changes recently. New coordinator, new quarterback. Do you feel this week's challenge is a little bit different than the other weeks in that regard?
Yeah, every week's a challenge in this league. So, look, we played 3 quarterbacks, so we've been through that. I mean, Coach Reich, again, I'm not there, I don't know, but he calls the plays. Looks very much like Coach Reich's offense going all the way back when he was at Philly. So, whatever changes they made, I'm sure, you know, he has reasons for making them, but he's a really good coach, and I'm sure that he'll be ready to go with whatever adjustments they've made. But that's the NFL. You make adjustments every week. Things happen every week, and you know, went through a couple of years there with COVID where, you know, we had a lot of changes with players and practice elevations and coaches available and not available, so forth. So we've been through a lot of changes. Really, the changes now are pretty mild compared to what they were a couple of years ago.
Bill, were you surprised that they made the change at quarterback?
Yeah, again, I'm really focused on our team, trying to get our team to play as well as we can. I'm not going to worry about what everybody else has done.
Bill, you mentioned before the season started, right before the season, that it might not be till October or thereabouts before you really kind of have an idea of what your team is. Do you know now what your team is?
I know a lot more than I knew 2 months ago, for sure. Yeah, of course, learn something every day, every week. So, yeah, we got a lot more under our belt. So keep working to improve things, all the time. Some things we're doing better. You know, been attacked by different teams in different ways. You learn a lot from that. So it's a challenge every week.
How would you describe, I guess, some of the strengths you see from your team?
Well, I mean, it's just really a matchup against the Colts. So how we did against somebody else may or may not even be relevant. I don't know. Right now, it's just focused on the Colts. But, you know, fundamentally, we try to work on things that, you know, we need to work on that'll make us better. Schematically, you know, same thing. We made some adjustments. Players, you know, they've had to make some changes, adjustments too. So, all for what we think will make us better.
Does not having Mac for 3 weeks, does that like delay the process at all in terms of that information gathering that you do about your team or your offense specifically?
Look, there's always changes. We just talked about that. It's going to be some changes next week. Look, every team's got changes every week. I mean, take a look at the injury reports. Everybody's got somebody on them. It's usually more than one. Guys on injury reserve. Things happen. Things change. That's the National Football League.
Final question?
Billy mentioned DeForest Buckner. How would you describe the way that they use him? Is he a matchup guy week to week in terms of his alignment, or is it pretty consistent?
He usually plays a 3 technique, but they will move him around, have moved him around. I think with Ngakoue, they moved him less this year than last year. You know, so Ngakoue plays outside. Buckner generally plays inside, but they'll move him. And then when they stunt, you know, then, you know, he could end up on somebody besides the guard or the tackle, depending on the blocking scheme. But they play some other fronts in sub where they put everybody on one side or getting a wide look. And I'd say most of the time he's on one guard or the other, depending on the front and what down it is. But he does move around, and he did more of that last year. You know, he got us last year when he was on our left side, you know, right end, came inside, as an example. So he was in a different position there. But we had to be ready for him everywhere. But, you know, thinking Ngakwe outside and Buckner inside, it's kind of what gives them good balance in there. Stewart's played really good for him inside, and then they got multiple other outside rushers. I can't pronounce their names. They all start with O. Got the numbers, but I'm not going to embarrass anybody for any pronunciations up here, but they have a good edge rush group, and then they have, you know, good inside rushers. You know, but Buckner's as good as, I mean, he's as good as there is. He's up there with all the, you know, Donald, Hayward, Chris Jones, you know, just whoever you want to talk about, he statistically is right there, and he plays that way. He's got a ton of production, ton of tackles, sacks, quarterback hits, batted balls, forced fumbles. I mean, you name it, he's got it all. So, and then you look at Leonard, who hasn't played much this year, but I mean, there's another guy with tremendous production that, you know, looks like he'll probably be back for this week. So, you know, you put him up there with all the guys that have had great, you know, starts of their careers, you know, Kuechly, Mayo, Leonard. It's had a ton of production. So, yeah, just goes to be a big challenge. All right, great, thank you.